Hi everyone, my name is Olександра Стародубцева and I'm here to present you my coursework. The name is Lingual Means of Individual and Authorial Imagery and their reflection and artistic translation into Ukrainian. It's done on the material of the cartoon Encanto. Translation by its very nature is a tool for learning about the world and spreading knowledge. One of the links of its links is artistic translation, which carries a task of cultural development of the world, expansion of the collective memory of humanity, and is a factor of culture itself. It is thanks to this type of translation that people are able to spread their culture, heritage, and traditions, and also get to know other cultures. So, the relevance of our work is determined by the need of improvement of, hope you can see that, of translations of artistic texts into Ukrainian. The scientific novelty is determined by explaining and supplementing the concept of good translation in relation to translations of artistic works. The object of research is linguistic means of individual and authorial imagery, and the subject of the research are the peculiarities of the translation of linguistic means of individual authorial imagery into Ukrainian language. The purpose of the study is to analyze the Ukrainian translation of the cartoon Encanto, to identify its flaws and peculiarities, and also to explain them and to provide examples of your own translation. The purpose of our work necessitizes the following practical tasks. First is to analyze the theoretical basis of the study of the problems in translation of fiction. Second is to determine the features of individual and authorial imagery. Also, analysis of the Ukrainian translation of the cartoon, comparing it to the original texts, and to identify the shortcomings of the provided literary translation and purpose or our own version, and propose our own version of the translation. The amount of fiction in the world is increasing every day, so the need to translate it is also increasing. But the translation of fiction has its own difficulties, with which the translator must know how to work. The quality of the translation depends on whether the recipient will understand the author's intention or not. And the quality of the translation itself rests on the shoulders of the specialists. Achieving the main goal of translation, namely creating a certain image for the reader, is quite a difficult task. Therefore, a literary translation may have some deviations from the standard rules to show what features the writer wanted to convey to the reader. A literal translation cannot reflect the depth and meaning of the literary work. Having analyzed the theoretical basis of the study of the problems of literary translations, we found out that there are several requirements for the translation of literary texts. Accuracy. The translator must convey to the reader all the thoughts expressed by the author of the original work. While it is important to preserve all the nuances, as well as not to add anything of its own, because this will distort the original text. Conciseness. The translation opinions, the translator's opinions should be expressed as sequentially as possible, and verbosity is prohibited. Clarity. It is important to avoid complex and ambiguous statements that can make it difficult for the reader to understand the text. And finally, literacy. All phrases must sound natural without the hints of the synthetic constructions of the original text. Imagery. Finally, another important aspect of the translation of fiction is the translation of individual and authorial imagery. Imagery is the act of using language to create images in the reader's mind. Writers use descriptive words and phrases to help the reader feel as if they are immersed in the world of the book. which means the writer tries to create a mental image for the reader with the help of selected words. Imagery falls into two broad categories, direct and figurative. With the help of direct images, the writer literally describes things to the reader. Direct imagery helps the reader imagine where the characters are, understand what they're doing, and even kind of predict what might happen next. Figurative imagery, on the other hand, relies on the implicit symbolic meaning of the words and phrases to help shape the themes and ideas of the text. An easy way to spot imagery in the text is to pay attention to the words, phrases, and sentences that relate to your 5-sentence. The 4 images are also divided into the following categories. Visual images. Writers use color, size, etc. to help readers visualize scenes more vividly. Auditory images. Sounds can help describe any auditory moment, such as dialogue in a conversation or a noisy environment like a roaring ocean. Olfactory images. Because smell is closely related to memory, writers can use olfactory images to recreate a certain mood or feeling for readers. Gustatory images. These images can be direct, for example, the taste of food or drink, or evoke an emotional or mood of a situation. Tactile images. Tactile imagery often includes textures and physical features like rough, smooth, itchy, sharp, dull, or temperature like warm, frosty, wet, and also the movements, swimming, hugging, galloping. Equivalence. The equivalence of the original and the translation is a common understanding of the information contained in the text, including that which affects not only the mind, but also the feelings of the recipient, and which is not only explicitly expressed in the text, but also implicitly attributed to the subtext. Let's look at this dialogue that we see in the movie between Abuela Alma and Mirabel. As we can see, the translation doesn't convey the emotions of the original as well as you would like it to be. In the original, Abuela Alma kind of picks up on Mirabel and divides her from the rest of the family, basically making her feel very bad about the fact that she doesn't have a gift. And in the translation, we don't really see as much of it as we would want to. So we can give our translation of the text as we suggest. And we can see that the work that I've done better expresses the kind of feeling that Abuela Alma makes Mirabel feel. Let's see further. Cultural ethnic words. Cultural ethnic words are just words specific to one culture or ethnicity and often have no equivalent in the other languages. When watching a cartoon in English, we quite often come across Spanish words, such as sprinkling of foreign words allows the viewer to immerse himself in a foreign culture, which means that the cartoon will be more enjoyable. The creators of the picture use the method on purpose. And as we can see, here is a table of cultural ethnic words and expressions of the original and how it is in the translation. While seeing them side by side, you can really see that they didn't really change much in the translation, so they didn't use other words to express Spanish words. They just use the same Spanish words most of the time. The times that it could be confusing, they changed it, but it didn't really impact the whole image of itself. Yes, it's still the table, you can see. And in order to evaluate the translation of the given words, it is necessary to consider these words separately from the text. As you can see here, most of the cultural and ethnic words in the cartoon have not been translated or adapted. I believe this is only a plus of the translation because it brings to people the intention of the author. Moments that could cause misunderstanding or simply would not provoke the reaction that the original provokes in native speaker were translated with easy phrases that do not stand out against cultural background of the cartoon. Therefore, in my opinion, the translation of cultural and ethnic words and expressions in the cartoon was done very well. Therefore, an analysis of the Ukrainian translation of cartoon Encanto was carried out, during which its flaws were revealed, the significance of which of such errors was described, and more correct versions of the translation were proposed. Peculiarities of translations were also considered and analyzed. The conduct and analysis will contribute to the better and more virtuosic translation of artistic texts into Ukrainian. It will also promote the distribution and use of Ukrainian translations in the entertainment sphere, which will popularize the use of Ukrainian language sources amongst a young audience. Thank you for your attention.